What?
I'm going to start this again.
Oh, all right.
So, you said that one of your siblings was born, or a couple of siblings were born in Brockton, and one was born, Kendall was born in Annapolis.
Mother's family came from Brockton.
Yeah.
And Ann and Richard were both born when we were living in Brockton. And then Kendall was born in Annapolis.
When you say Annapolis, in other words,
Annapolis, Maryland.
Oh, I know that, but isn't that where the
That's
Naval Academy
Yes,
is?
well, he wasn't born in the Naval Academy. He was born in the town.
No, but I mean, was your father,
Dad was there at Annapolis at the time, yes.
was he training or was he teaching?
He was in the Navy. He was stationed there, and he was taking a postgraduate course or something. Because he enlisted in the Navy, he didn't get to go to Annapolis.
I did not know that.
Because his mother turned down an appointment.
You had mentioned that earlier, yeah.
And he never knew about it till much later, after he and Mom were married, in fact.
Yeah.
And Mammy was determined to run his life, and it just didn't, I don't know what her problem was, but she didn't like her own life.
So, Richard and Kendall basically, they both enlisted in the Navy, didn't they? Or did they go to opposite training?
Yeah, Dad was in the Navy the whole time we were,
But
I was home.
when your two brothers grew up, weren't they both in the Navy?
Dad told them that if they were accepted to Annapolis, then he would not pay for college for them to go elsewhere. Well, as it turned out, Richard was colorblind, and he was not accepted to Annapolis at first. But they were just a year apart, and when they first went to school, Mother waited with Kendall until they were both could go in the same class.
Oh, okay.
And so they were in the same class. Well, they're two entirely opposite ends of anything, the two of them. Kendall was shorter and faster and smarter. Richard was a big, lazy baby with a very large head, very gangly baby. And whenever he got tired, he would put down his head and stand like a tripod and rest that way. And then okay, yeah. Kendall came along as a small, compact, absolutely perfectly formed child in every respect.
Yeah.
And if Mother would have them down at the beach, some doctor would come along and ignore Richard and look at Kendall and out loud talk about the perfect child. And
right in front of his brother.
You can understand how Richard grew up feeling a little, Anyway, yeah. So.
Well, tell me a little bit about Ann. Ann had how many kids?
Ann had
Stuart.
Five.
Yeah.
Laurie, Stuart,
Holly.
Wendy,
Holly,
and Bruce. And I'm still in touch with all of them, actually.
Now, is it my imagination, or was there a story where somebody sent Ann to the grocery store to get some elbow grease?
Oh yeah, that was done many times. We all got sent to do something stupid when we were kids. That was part of the fun.
That's funny. Now, when you were growing up with Ann, what did Ann get into when she got a little bit older?
When she got older, well, first of all, she was a very sickly child.
I didn't realize that.
And every single measles, mumps, chicken pox, you name it, I would be exposed to, come home, I wouldn't get it, I'd give it to her.
So you're like the typhoid Mary of the family.
Yeah, I was. It was terrible. And she got pneumonia when she was very small. And
oh, wow.
We were in California, and she was in the hospital. And I came home one day, lumbar pneumonia. Anyway, I came home from school one day and found Mother on the sofa in tears because she didn't think Ann was going to make it.
Now, you're how much older than Ann?
4.5 years. Same, almost 5 years. Same amount that I was older than Bill.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. In fact, they were.
And then Ann and Richard and Kendall were all born a year apart?
Yep.
Wow.
Ann was born in 29. I think most likely, because I was born in 24 and we were overseas, but I think very possibly Mother had a miscarriage in between. I'm pretty sure she must have.
Wow.
we didn't talk about it, she didn't talk about it.
Yeah.
And you know I was supposed to be a boy.
Yeah, and this is
Expecting a
one thing
boy.
I just learned a couple of years ago that you
Well, I'm really not a transvestite
or a Kardashian.
but, well, the thing is that there was this old wives' tale that if you're carrying a boy, it's all out here, and if you're carrying a girl, it's spread apart. Well, it figured with my children, because Lynn was the only one that wasn't right out here. So, but yeah, I was supposed to be a boy, and the doctor was surprised. Everybody was surprised I turned out to be a girl.
That's funny.
But it colored my whole life because I've always been much more comfortable around men or boys.
So when
Girly girls and I didn't get along together.
So when was the epiphany? How old were you when they said, "Oh, we're expecting a boy and they were going to name him John, but you came along, so we named you Joan"?
Yeah. How old was I?
Yeah, when you were told.
Or Ann.
No, how old were you when you found out that they originally wanted a boy?
I was grown up. I didn't know it until a number of years ago.
Oh, okay.
I didn't. But looking back, I can see how it affected my whole life.
Wow.
It definitely has.
This is the original transgender mom.
Yeah, transgender mom.
So much for a PG rating.
Just
Got
call
a
me
rated R.
Tim. Well, you know, and part of this, of course, because we moved so much, when I went off to college, and I recently had gotten a letter from Tom Ward, his birthday, January 2nd, I think, explaining what happened.
Our family minister, yeah.
When his kids got together and gave him a birthday party, because when Mother and Dad, the whole family were going to Brazil, and I was going, my father was great, because he respected what he knew. I didn't want to go anywhere except stay in one place for one school particularly.
Yeah.
He was really good. So he planned for me to stay with Uncle Ken's family in Philadelphia while I went to Penn State.
Mm-hmm.
And I would come down the following summer. And the day that they left New York to go to Brazil, Tink came down. Mother's cousin, Lynn Tinkham, came down to take me back up to stay with John Ringling North's family, and it was, until it was time to go to school. And Dad took us all to see Arsenic and Old Lace the day before the ship sailed. And the morning after, we went all to get on the ship. I went with him. And he would line us all up at every cross street we came to in New York on the way down to the ship. And then he'd just, we're all in a line, and he'd say charge, and here we'd go. I agree, that was fun. Dad, Mother.
Which is a line from Arsenic and Old Lace.
Oh, okay, thank you.
4 kids, and then
that.
we were met by Tink, who had come to take me back.
Nice.
And we got on board the ship, and I had a terrible, terrible moment because Tink didn't want to get off the ship. He wanted to go with it. And I said, no, I am not going to Brazil.
That's funny.
So I finally got him to get off. He was a little annoyed with me all the way back up to Brockton, though.
Now, how old were you when you finally stopped traveling? Because it seems to me you told me you were about 23 when you finally stopped traveling every single year of your life. Somewhere in that neighborhood?
Actually, I was married because I got married the day after I graduated from college.
Okay. And you were the what, Alpha Omicron Pi?
Yes. Yeah, they're in my shit list too, by the way.
Okay, your rating's gone already.
There we go.
Well,
Oh, we don't need
no,
to. We don't need to go
Tink
there.
finally got off the ship, and he was a little annoyed with me all the way home. But we went back up to Newton, and I stayed with the Caldwells, and I had babysat their son, and he was John Ringling North from the circus.
Oh, so it was the same family?
Yes, it was.
No kidding.
Oh yeah, he was the grandson.
This is why I'm videotaping stuff like this.
And
This
he
is
was a
cool
little
stuff.
brat, but I had babysat him for quite a while, and we got along pretty. He didn't like to do his homework, I was halfway schooling him, I think. But I stayed there until graduation time, which was in a couple of months anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened?
You got married.
I graduated. And
And your majors were what?
Hmm?
What was your major? I'm trying to remember. Was it botany?
well, my major, actually my major was zoology. I was interested in herpetology,
Mm-hmm. Which is reptiles.
which is a study of reptiles,
Yeah.
and that's what I really wanted. And I wrote to Raymond Ditmars, who was the herpetologist
Mm-hmm.
of mention, because his secretary had been my mother's roommate in college. So I had his address, and I wrote to him and asked him what I should major in, what I should take, and he wrote me back a perfectly horrible letter that I was a woman and I had no business even thinking about such a thing.
Wow.
That's the second one. I got another one of those later
Yeah.
from somebody else from school. Yeah, my one of my professors who didn't think I should be
Let's
studying when I would be home having babies. I shouldn't be doing what I was doing.
we're going to jump forward in time a little bit because a few years ago you mentioned that you actually were in a PTA or something, and you actually served on some committees with Yogi Berra, the famous baseball player.
Oh, Yogi.
Yeah.
Well, Yogi and I worked together when we lived in Woodcliff Lake,
Mm-hmm.
and I was president of the PTA, and we were doing some work together with the PTA.
Nice.
And he kept me in stitches the whole time we were working. I've forgotten what project we were on, really, but he was living there, and he and his wife had I think they had a kid in the school system, but I don't remember any of that really
Yeah.
as well. But he was hysterical.
That's funny.
We
So
had
this
such a-
was the Woodcliff Lake grade school
yeah.
that you were in
Yeah,
the PTA.
it was,
Okay.
yes.
Wow. Now, what PTA were you involved in when Ken and was it Bonnie ran off together, your husband at the time, and when you met my father, when you met Bill?
Well, we were living on Rockman Road at the time.
So, in other words, was it the same school?
We were, yeah.
Oh, okay. That's what I never figured out. Because I remember that my dad was
Well,
school photographer and you were the PTA president or
yeah,
something?
because well, Ken and I lived in Closter
Okay.
first when when you were
When I started school.
when Grandpa Lou came along. When he accused you want to go with me, Shumper. We lived upstairs over an apartment over the house on 90 Columbus Avenue, and what they had done, and W.K. McGrath who came from Biloxi, Mississippi, so he was a bit of a segregationist, you might
Mhm.
say.
Yeah.
But it was his, and I said to Maxine, his wife, one day, I said, how could you live with that? Because he had made the remark that no nigger was ever bright and had enough brains to do something or other.
Wow.
And she said, we just don't talk about it.
Wow.
Because she came from Lakeland, Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, he was the engineer, and a brilliant one, who spun the cable across the Delaware River for the bridge
Oh, wow.
way back. That's how long ago that was.
Wow.
And we loved living there. But they had taken their house, an old 3-story house, and on Columbus Avenue, and they had put their 2 daughters in the old dining room, made a bed
Oh, okay.
apartment,
Yeah.
and closed off the staircase that went upstairs, so they put a wall there,
Mm-hmm.
so that we had the whole upstairs.
Oh, okay.
So we had to go, and that's when someone also, when we got a dog, and the dog would start
Was that
having
good?
to go out.
Was that
go down
Gunir?
3 steps, and no, it wasn't Gunir.
Okay.
It was another dog at
Oh.
the time, and I can't think of the dog's name. But
And this is when you and Ken were first together.
yes, we were
Okay.
still living there. Matter of fact, the day we moved in, you know, your mother would pick up anything. It didn't matter how heavy. The day we moved in, I was helping move furniture, and I heard WK went in and said, "That woman's out there slinging furniture around like something or other."
That's
But
funny.
but we had the upstairs apartment, and he had Well, let's see, we had the kitchen at the top of the stairs, and we had a washing machine in the kitchen, and they had a little dog named Jill. No, we didn't have a dog when we were there, actually. We had a hamster.
Oh, cool.
But the dog named Jill, they had gone on vacation at one point, and I was minding the dog, and the washing machine was a Bendix with the door open
Mm-hmm.
frontwards, and it had spun itself, the door opened, and the water came across the kitchen floor, underneath the refrigerator, and down the pipe on top of their refrigerator downstairs. And the dog was down there barking its head off.
Well, that's
I
funny.
had to clean it up, and I was laughing so hard the whole time. It was
Oh,
kind of hard, but I was forgiven.
I got a couple.
But Ken had a shop in the basement there that he was using, and we had the front room, and we had musical record players
Yeah.
and stuff and everything. We had a very nice place, and then we had the kids, which would be just the two of you.
So
Greg was born while we were there, so he,
Yeah.
Lynn and
a
Thumb.
little
Yeah.
later. But the door to the attic went up through their front bedroom. And it was always very cold up there, so we called it Siberia. And anybody that had committed a transgression, including father, supposedly, would have to go sit on the steps to Siberia for so many minutes.
That's funny.
Well, it was funny. Everybody got a chance, but Ken refused to sit there. He didn't want to play that game.
Oh, that's funny.
He was awful.
Oh,
Not
Oh.
you, your father.
that's funny.
Yeah.
Oh.
Anyway, and then his mother decided that kids always needed a pet, so she brought us a hamster. And I was so mad at her. I didn't want any animals up there. It's too much to. No, it wasn't a good place.
Now, when did you have Tinkerbell? Were you a lot younger? You were a little kid when you had a cat named Tinkerbell, right?
Oh, I was married. I was 19 still.
Oh, okay.
I graduated from college. I graduated from college in June, and I was
43.
43, so
Mhm.
I was 19.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how old were you when you graduated from high school? 15 or so?
16.
Holy cow.
Everybody else was 18. I was 16.
Now,
Well, I
did you...
skipped a grade
Yeah?
because in second grade, I think, and we were in, where were we? Near Norfolk, and I was always getting into trouble, and I'd end up sitting in the hall because the teacher had sent me out to the hall, and one day the principal came in and called me into his office, and he said, would you mind if I put you in the third grade? Not at all. He just decided I was bored,
Yeah.
and I was. So
Hey.
that was in Annapolis when Kendall was born. So
Oh.
yeah, so I got shifted up to the third